Hey there, music makers. I'm Hayes Griffin.
And I'm Magnus Zetterlund.
And welcome to Mandolin Secrets Live, a bi-weekly show where we take a deeper look at what's happening in the world of Mandolin Secrets. Each episode, we're going to tackle our question of the week, unpack the latest Mandolin Secrets lessons, and answer your questions about mandolin, guitar, and all things music. In this week's episode, we're going to be discussing our question of the week, which was your top picks for the most underrated mandolinist. Magnus has a new release out, Tremology, which we'll be taking a look at, and then there's a new Avalon lesson for some jazz rhythm playing for mandolin. But before we go ahead and dive into all that stuff, be sure to head to mandolinsecrets.com/live to sign up for reminders about our upcoming streams. And if you can't tune in live, if you're watching this in the future now, never fear. Just search Mandolin Secrets Live on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to get updates when we release a new episode. With that said, I think Magnus has got some stuff for us here, right?
Yes, I mean, I'm really looking forward to go into a little deeper conversation about those things. But I want to start off here. This is actually something that I picked up in the group. I think it was Elliot Brenner who posted this thing, that he kind of felt a little bit overwhelmed by all the content he feel that he should practice and all the interesting thing there is over there. So that's actually my first questions. If there's someone listening today, let us know in the comment section, do you ever feel overwhelmed about your mandolin playing? Put a quick yes or no into the chat box. And I must say here, I mean, if someone is putting no in there, I won't believe them.
I agree. I just typed yes in there for myself, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's like being into music, I think, and something I can relate to a lot myself also. And so I think this is an interesting subject to discuss a little bit. And well, you, Hayes, you just said there that you can relate to this. Would you in what way?
Yeah, I think Elliot's post really struck a chord with me, no pun intended, in that one of the things that I really felt overwhelmed by was just what is the next step? And I'm not even talking about which new skill am I going to try and learn or anything like this, but I'm talking about right now, what do I need to be practicing? Because when I sit down and look at all of the tunes that I know or want to know and all of the techniques that I want to hone in, the list rapidly becomes 10 pages long. So how do you turn all of those seemingly random kind of things into a structured approach to playing and learning the mandolin every day? You know? So that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. And also one thing that I like to say this sometimes, but I truly mean that the deeper we go, the more there is to learn. That is also so. I mean, it's like going into a field of quicksand, or I mean, so that's also something.
It just pulls you in.
It just pulls you in. So I mean, you got your list with songs there, and if you start to go through that, and we will come to talk about Avalon here in a minute, and just the amount of deepness in a song like that could keep you busy for the rest of the year, basically.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. So there is totally, I mean, something we can all relate to, even at different levels, I think. But here's one thing. There's a couple of things that I want to address about this overwhelm thing. And where should I start? One thing that I kind of remind myself of, instead of having this feeling, first off, I want to say like this. This is actually one of the main reasons why we even create the Mandolin Secrets live show. Because we were talking about what kind of content do we want to put in there? What is the use of a show like this? And I remember we both agreed that like people in our community, they don't need more workshops. They don't need more lessons. They don't need more. So instead of like using this 30 minutes to show you another scale, we thought, hey, let's just tackle those questions and hopefully inspire people to kind of digest the content that we're already putting out there in a more gentle and fun way.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I'm seeing the comments actually coming in here to the thread. Elliot's here who brought this topic up, and Jimmy Mahoney's here too. And I think they can empathize with this, that it's like Jimmy just said, it's like being a kid in a candy store with all of the content that's available out there. But I think what you said, Magnus, is, like I said, spot on. The most important thing when you have that volume of knowledge that you can be learning is to stay inspired and stay engaged with it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like you said, we can maybe do some of that in the context of this show.
Yes. And there's like two like simple concepts that I want to touch upon. And the first one is something I try to think of. I mean, one thing you can try is to replace the word practice into playing. That means you don't have to, because some people feel overwhelmed because they know they should be practicing, But here's the thing, as soon as we spend some quality time with our instruments, just playing it, of course we will improve out of doing that. So that little kind of, only like a language thing, that kind of try it for yourself. Replace the word practice with playing. You will probably see that can actually take a little bit of the pressure that we put to ourselves, because we all feel that we should practice for at least 30 minutes a day to get this. But if we can play for 10 minutes a day, if we can play for 15 minutes a day, that is actually... Do you get the thing that I'm trying to point out there?
Of course. Yeah, because practice, when you use the word practice, at least for me, it seems like work, right? Yeah. Practice equals work, whereas play equals fun. Play equals play, right?
Yes.
And I think, you're willing to play as long as you want. You could play for 2 hours, right? But practice, we want to like limit it because it's work, right? So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's, I think, something we can all maybe to be kind of embrace a little bit. Talk about playing the mandolin more than practicing it. It can help us a little bit with that overwhelmed feeling. And also the second thing that I kind of like to remind my students of, remind myself of. Here's the thing. Anyone can like play the mandolin for 5 hours one day. That's not like, you don't need a character to do that. We can do it out of inspiration and things. But it takes more like, I don't find the word, but to do it like 10 minutes a day for 5 or 6 days in a week, it actually takes more character of you to that, and that is really what can make you a good, really, really, really good mandolin player. And and you can really get a long way, but just playing 10 minutes a day. So instead of feeling like because I also see people that they think they should play more than they do. But here's the thing, if you can be satisfied with if you can pick up the mandolin and do it 10 minutes a day, that's really good habit that will really push you forward. And the good thing, the trick with this little approach is also 10 minutes often grows into 20, 30 minutes.
You said exactly what I was thinking at the same time that you were saying it. You know, it's hard to limit it to 10 minutes, right?
Yes, it is. But that's a few tips just to get over the feeling of being overwhelmed. Because I think in that kind of feeling, there's also some kind of time frame or time limit to it. I should consume all this content in this set of time, sort of. But if we can just lean back a little bit and just accept that it will take months, it will take years to accomplish what we want to do, but it's all about just getting started and small steps at a time, sort of.
Yeah, and maintaining the key word that you said a minute ago that I think is the most important one here is the habit of doing it. Forming new habits is the hardest part, in my opinion. And I think that one thing that can lead to the sense of overwhelm is, like you said, only checking in one day a week and playing for 5 hours. And then you go 7 days without playing again. And it seems like that much more work that you have to do the next time you play for another 5 hours. But if you do something for 10 minutes a day, like you were saying, I mean, there's tons of neurological research out there, which I try to keep up on. I always love to use science to justify my practice habits and things like that.
I like that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of neurological research out there that, in fact, 20 minutes a day of meaningful, mindful practice will take you just as far as 5 hours of just kind of not doing anything with any direction and not having a habit built around it. So, I think you're onto something that's really deep and important to understand if you want to kind of avoid this overwhelming thing. You have to chip away at it and check in regularly, right?
Yeah. So I think that's we're not. But I haven't seen the research, but I also felt it for myself, the exact same as you're describing there. So hopefully it's an interesting topic. We will probably come back to it again and again and again. But for now, we just leave it with that I don't know how to summarize it, but take it in small pieces and just also accept the fact that we can all feel this overwhelmed thing at all stages, basically. So it's totally normal.
Definitely, yeah. And like Magnus says, if you just take it a piece at a time, it's that in and of itself will help.
And now, so let us hear the question of the week. You can please formulate it again, Hayes.
Yeah, so the question that we're going to tackle today is, I tossed it out there a while ago in the group and said, in your opinion, who is the most underrated mandolinist? And I didn't attach genre to it or anything like that because I just wanted to see, I wanted to learn something in this instance. You know what I mean? I wanted to hear about mandolin players that I didn't know about. And we got a ton of responses. I'm looking at the thread on Facebook right now.
Was there any specific player that came up a couple of more than one time?
Yeah, there was. The one that I was surprised to see in underrated mandolinist because he's such a like important mandolinist to my work is Johnny Gimble. A lot of people were talking about Johnny Gimble being one of the most underrated mandolinists, and I think that makes sense because a lot of people see him as a fiddle player more than maybe a mandolin player. But but a lot of those Bob Wills tracks. Like from the late 40s with Tiny Moore on electric mandolin were actually twin harmonies with him and Johnny Gimble. So there's a ton of Johnny Gimble work out there that I think people just didn't even know was Johnny Gimble.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if I ever heard Johnny Gimble.
Oh, I know for a fact that you've heard Johnny Gimble. Okay. You just didn't know it.
Yeah, probably. And that I can like the question, I can also kind of read it in that way. So underrated can be someone that isn't known to the big audience, kind of, isn't? So, because that's actually my pick for my underrated mandolin player. I think I put in there Petri Hakala.
Yes.
And I mean, Petri Hakala, it's not like I don't want to say he's underrated because most people think he's brilliant. But I think there's so many in this community that never heard of Petri Hakala, for example.
I hadn't heard of him until you mentioned him to me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you did mention him because he's amazing.
Yes, Petri Hakala, he's like the... he's from Finland, and he got a like very deep and rooted bluegrass foundation as a background, but he also plays a lot of Finnish folk, he plays Irish folk, and Brazilian music. He, a little bit like the Mike Marshall of Nordic mandolin, I would say, but he's just great. Fantastic player. So if you haven't heard Petri Hakala, I think you should check him out.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta ask because I know that this was kind of like almost like a folk craze in Finland for a while. Does Petri play any tango music? Because I know that was like huge in Finland for a while in like acoustic music community and stuff like that.
It is. And there's the Finnish tango.
Yes.
So that's, and he's even in a tango orchestra, I know.
That's awesome. I would love to hear that.
Yeah. But hey, I want to proceed a little bit here also. So if people are more interested in the underrated player, go check the post inside our Facebook group, because there you can see a lot about that. So I want to play a little bit of music here for you, and
that's a great idea.
And let's start with listening to this little fellow here. This is my new song, Tremology. I'm going to listen to just a little short clip of the song. There it is, and it's a brand new song that I actually released yesterday, available on all music streaming platforms, and it's like my the first release as a solo artist, so it's a big milestone for me, really.
Yeah, I gotta say, Magnus, it's an amazing piece of music. And it's, I'm looking at the comments coming in right now on the stream, and Jimmy says it's awesome. He said, sure enjoyed playing along with Tremology yesterday. But yeah, my wife was listening in when we watched the debut of it, and she said, oh, it sounds so cinematic. So I think cinematic is a good term.
Yeah, cinematic. Yeah, I also heard a couple of different people say it, and I can relate to that. And also, it's a very simple tune in a way. One of the most simple melody I ever written, I think. But so one part of me is also doubting, releasing a tune that is so simple. Because you want to show your muscles as well,
Yeah, there aren't any 16th note triplets in this tune, right? So
not a single one. And but I hope I can include some songs like that also in the future, of course. But I remember also this quote that I read from Neil Young at some point, that he likes to play with musicians that have the courage to play simple stuff. And that excludes 95% of all musicians.
That's pretty great. That doesn't surprise me coming from him either.
No. And I think that there is something, some level of truth in that like quote. So at the same time as I'm feeling, oh, it's such a simple tune, I also like try to pat myself a little bit on the back and say, well, you at least have the courage to put it out there. So
I think that is a courageous thing. And for anyone out there listening who is trying to write tunes and feels unsatisfied and embarrassed and shy, I feel that way too, I think, Magnus, whenever I write a tune and try and release it. But I think the point is to, what I want to say, jump off the cliff, right? Just do it. And be courageous. And really, I think a lot of people, maybe some people will understand this and they're listening in, but I think there's more to that courageous, simple playing thing that Neil Young said, because if you're playing simple, that means you're playing kind of with your ears and your passion a little bit, right? As opposed to your mind, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's really my ego speaking that's telling me this is too simple, you know. I'm not showing off anything. Hey,
exactly.
You know, you should show up, you know, that kind of thing. So I really relate to what you say there. It's like being more, like using my ears a little bit more. But anyway, we had a release party for the song yesterday. If anyone want to listen to the song, you can just go to mandolinsecrets.com/Tremology, and there you find links to all services. I can see some comments also here about liking it. But we had the release party yesterday, and there were a couple of questions there that I didn't have a time to answer. So I will try to shoot them down pretty fast here. So Hayes, could you read me some of those questions so I can just see if I can answer them?
Definitely. So Darren had a question. The first one on the list, I love this because this kind of relates to another thread I saw recently. It said, "The tune is awesome. Can we get it on vinyl?"
Yeah. So Darren, this is an digital release only, and I'm thinking like this. Once I have collected at least 10 songs in the digital like release like this, maybe I can then gather them for an album, and a vinyl would of course be very cool. But that's for the future.
Yeah, we'll make that happen, right? And then Mike Webb had a great question that I think, you know, a lot of listeners would hear when they listen to this tune. Mike said, "Do you get many ideas from classical music? I'm a great Sibelius fan."
To be honest, I'm not that well oriented into classical music. I wish I listened to classical music more than I do, but the most honest answer is no. I'm not that inspired by classical music.
Yeah, I think Mike was onto something though, because Sibelius has these really like dense, emotional kind of pieces. You know what I mean? That remind me a lot of the texture of Tremology. So that's good.
Yeah. And here's the thing. That's also, I mean, I love symphonic music because I love score music and music to cinemas. So, and that is it. So that's more the orchestral music that I'm listening to is more oriented towards that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a question from Pat here, I think. It says, "Is there sheet music available for this song?"
There is, and sheet music you will find in Mandolin Secrets Academy. So I like to keep them somehow exclusive for the members.
Yeah, I think it was cool. I heard you say at one time, like out of respect for them or something, you put it in Mandolin Secrets Academy. So that's a good way of framing it. And then Jimmy Mahoney, our buddy Jimmy, has a great question here, which I personally love. He says, I need a Guitar Secrets Academy. What about this Guitar Secrets Academy thing, man?
Yeah. And I'm not sure how that came up there, but the good news is we're planning on guitar content And it's mostly on the on the workbench of Mr. Griffin, right? You're putting together the.
Oh shoot! Was I supposed to be doing that?
No, but it's. I guess we're hopefully something we can present here in the late summer, early autumn, sort of.
Yeah. I think Jimmy was asking because there's some pretty cool like slide guitar stuff featured on that Tremology track. So you'll have to show us some of your slide guitar magic when we launch the site.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have here? There's another question that says it kind of related to the release platforms. Are you going to make this release available on Bandcamp? That's another question.
No, Bandcamp is not planned now. It's more on the more popular ones, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all that. But if you want like a high resolution version of the song, you can get it on my website. And also I would put into the Academy, there's a high resolution file there.
Yeah, and that actually answers one of the last questions I was getting to here. It says, will the session be up on Mandolin Secrets Academy so I can watch or catch up? And I think they're talking specifically about the release party from yesterday.
Yeah, also the release party is being uploaded there. Even this is a good bridge out of the release party questions, but even here the live shows that we're doing here you can find the replays inside the Academy as well. So that's like that's the hub where we're collecting all this kind of extra goodies for you.
Yeah, great.
Yes, and I'm actually eager to play another bit of music for you. Should we have a listen first, or is this something you want to present, Hayes? You might know what I'm about to play.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into the video, and then we'll talk about it after.
All right, here it's coming. Yeah, really nice tune. What did we just hear here?
Yeah, that was a swing standard called Avalon that we just did a couple lessons for on Mandolin Secrets Academy. For those of you folks that haven't kept up with the YouTube channel or the Academy, those two were released over the last month. But Avalon is one of my favorite tunes, and I love that you're dancing to it. Whenever I hear that tune, like, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing, right, Magnus? So yeah, you just want to move.
Yes, and I remember, Hayes, I guess it's like something about half a year ago now, when we first started talking about you creating some content for my community. And I remember, like, the first song you mentioned yourself was Avalon. So I guess that also means that you have some longer connection to this song. Is this a tune that you kind of include in your sets, or how did you get in contact with the tune? Why did you start playing it, and why do you want to teach it?
My guitar teacher from college, from university, his name is Tom Carroll, and he's an amazing kind of like hard bop, post bop jazz guitar player, but he could tell that I was coming from the bluegrass realm when I got to him, so he was going to have to give me some jazz music that could maybe act as kind of like a intermediary between the really heady, dense jazz music of the 60s and the music that I played. Yeah. So he started getting me into the Hot Club of France, Django Reinhardt, all that kind of stuff. And that's where I started hearing these tunes. Tom, my teacher, had a band called Speakeasy that played all of that music, swing music from the 30s, and it was heavily featured in their sets, and we used to jam on it in my lessons and things like that. So yeah, I've had this tune in my repertoire for about I guess really 10 or 12 years, something like that. And the history of it's amazing. For those of you folks that are into that kind of thing, the tune was made popular by Al Jolson, who was made famous as he was the star of the first talking picture, like one of the, or at least the first highly lauded talking movie of the 30s, The Jazz Singer. Have you heard of that movie before?
I haven't seen it though.
You should check it out. It's a really interesting kind of like Art Deco inspired movie. There are all these weird kind of. It was made in the 30s, so it's an interesting period of cinema. But Al Jolson made this tune popular, and it kind of got picked up by Django, Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys. So anyone that was kind of loosely related to swing music, this tune quickly became a standard for them. And I think that's why I like it, because so many of my favorite swing musicians play it, you know?
Yeah, it's a fantastic tune. And I've kind of heard it, but I never got to the point where I could play it like so good. So the version that I got now is the one that I learned from you, actually.
Well, that's very flattering. I appreciate that. You took the time.
I think it's on it's definitely on the set list for when we make it, when we get to meet.
I think so, my friend. Yeah, that's number one.
Yeah, it's the number one. I think so too. Yes. Well, I think we're being here live for about 30 minutes now, and I think it's just the right amount of time for doing the show. Is there something you want to add to this, Hayes?
No.
Before we're wrapping things up?
Other than just go to mandolinsecrets.com/live, like we talked about earlier, and sign up to receive notifications for these live streams. So the next one is going to be 2 weeks from today, correct?
Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
And it happens every 2 weeks, so you can kind of mark it out on your calendar and tune in with us.
That will be May 19th. Always Wednesdays at the same time, and next one is May 19th.
Yeah, May 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time.
Yes, and I think by then also we probably have put this episode up to the platforms where you can listen to them, where you listen to different podcast episodes. So, and if you want to check the video, you can always find it inside the members area of Mandolin Secrets.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely want to keep up with the past episodes if you're going to miss out on one.
Yes, I think that's it for today. Maybe I'm playing a little bit of outro music here, or if you want to just finish it and I pick up my octave mandolin here. And so nice to see people that have been actually being with us live here, because it's I think that's also something that we wanted with this thing to be. We want it to be like a live show, because there is always a nerve into that, isn't it? For example, Hayes, there was a nerve just 3 minutes before we should start, and your camera didn't work.
So we're running around. Oh my gosh, how am I gonna make this work? Yeah, they always used to say that's live radio when I was working in radio. You know what I mean? So. All right, music makers. Well, for the few of you that I see out there tuning in, thanks so much. This is our first episode of Mandolin Secrets Live, so we really appreciate you being with us. Once again, we'll be back in 2 weeks for another show. So head to mandolinsecrets.com/live for more information on how to keep up with the show. I think that's where I'm going to leave it, folks. It's been great to see you. I'm Hayes Griffin. That's Magnus Zetterlund over there. We'll catch you next time.